Deputy Cullinane.
Minister, this adjournment motion is in relation to a housing estate in County Waterford, in Ceol, County Waterford, where serious fire safety defects were found in recent times. This is one of the many housing estates that was built during the Celtic Tiger period, where we had fire safety defects that were found because of problems with the development and poor and lax planning and regulation laws, and a lack of enforcement and compliance and so on. Just to give you some background to this issue, Minister, as I said, the housing estate in question was built during the Celtic Tiger years. The local authority got some stock in terms of Part 5, so we had some social and affordable housing units that were in the possession of Waterford City and County Council. Obviously, a portion of the houses were sold, so we have some private homeowners, and the remaining housing units that were unsold ended up in NAMA because the developer went into receivership. It was only when NAMA sold on a number of the unsold units to a volunteer to cover the costs of remediation. But obviously, the local authority then had to be notified that this could be a problem in all of the houses in the estate. The local authority, which is Waterford City and County Council, were made aware of the defects and employed a chartered fire engineer to carry out a survey. The fire safety compliance survey that was carried out by the Council highlighted areas of concern within the dwellings with regards to internal fire spread between dwellings. And I have the survey here, Minister. I just want to give you some examples of the areas of deficiency. The survey noted that the attic party wall plasterboard not properly jointed, reducing integrity of party wall. Cavity barriers were provided, were not fixed properly or loosely fitted, causing sagging and gaps. Cavity closers missing to top of external walls. Fire stop missing at the top of party wall between cavity closer and roof felt. It then goes on to make 5 priority recommendations that it asks the local authority to do in terms of carrying out remedial works in the properties, which the local authority did at a cost to the taxpayer. The problem here, of course, is that the private homeowners have been left high and dry, as has been the case in many of the high-profile cases which we've seen in Dublin and elsewhere over the last number of years. And that's unacceptable, Minister. The difficulty here is that the developer is in receivership. There is no now legal recourse for these private homeowners. They're being told that all they can do is notify the receiver. They're being told by the local authority, and the local authority has engaged with them, but they're being told that all they can do is give them advice. They can't carry out any remedial works because they're private houses. So I have a number of questions for you, Minister. The first is, would you agree that this shows up a lack of standards and a lack of regulation and enforcement in the building of houses? How is it that Waterford City and County Council did not identify these defects when they gained possession of the social and affordable units under Part 5? I mean, I find that extraordinary as well. Is it your intention, Minister, to move towards fully independent mandatory inspections, planning inspections, like we have in the north of Ireland? We don't have that here, and why not? Will you amend legislation to ensure that if it transpires that developers have not met their statutory obligations, that they are held fully accountable and liable? And where a developer is found not to be in compliance and goes into receivership in terms of one company in relation to one housing estate, but then sets up a different company and goes on to develop again, that they can't hide behind what's called a corporate veil. And in a PQ response, and the final question I have to you, Minister, on this issue to the Minister for the Environment, his response to me was extraordinary. He says, as Minister, I have no function in assessing, checking or testing compliance or otherwise of specific works or developments. Now, that's an embarrassment that a minister has no function whatsoever in these areas. Does he want functions in these areas? Does he want to have responsibility? He should want to have responsibility. And again, what action is the government going to take to make sure that we have mandatory inspections, that we improve the regulations, and the Minister will in the future have responsibility to deal with these issues.
Thanks, Deputy Cullinane.